What's up, my homies and fellow NFT collectors? Tomorrow's Thursday, and we got two different comic NFTs dropping, one from Marvel and one from DC Comics. So I wanted to go over those real quick to preview the drops and to talk about the best strategy to use on these DC comic drops, even though tomorrow's drop's not a super important one, but the ones in the future might be, so it's a great time to start practicing our techniques. First up, we got Daredevil number 102, dropping, of course, on the VeVe app. It features Black Widow and Stiltman. This is a 10,000 edition comic. I'm not sure if this one's going to sell out. It might not sell out right away, but I've been stacking up those commons on the 10K edition comic drops. There's only 6,000 edition of the commons. I've been able to pick them up for under 2.5 gems, which seems like a good deal to hold on to the future whenever comics start to blow up again. Then right after the Daredevil drop, the Batman and Joker NFT dropping on the DC Comics will happen at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This one has 10,000 editions, but keep in mind that they are holding back 10% of those for DC Batcowl holders. So there's really only about 7,000 editions going out to the public. This is a modern comic. It doesn't have a ton of value in the physical world, but it is a really cool subject matter with Batman and the Joker teaming up to save Harley Quinn. So price predictions are somewhat low for this one. However, it's going to be a great time to practice our strategy, our techniques for getting these DC comic drops. So we know what to do when Action Comics number 1 or Detective Comics with the first appearance of Batman drops. In my last video about DC comic drops, I suggested this tab gate method, a way of soft refreshing on that page, hoping that we wouldn't get back into the queue. But we had never had a drop on that platform before, so I was just spitballing ideas of things that could help us get the drop on drop day. What's up, homies? Quick update. While I was editing this video, DC went and dropped an update to their Medium article that tells you how to get their drops, and they're actually going to be implementing a new queue for tomorrow's drop. According to the updated Medium article, there's going to be a pre-queue now that automatically starts 1 hour before the sale, so everybody will be able to get into that pre-queue no matter what time you load up the website on drop page, just as long as it's an hour before the drop begins. The Medium article also says at the moment the sale starts, all users in that pre-queue will get a random number assigned to them that represents their order in the queue to enter the platform. So it's going to be just like an NBA Top Shot style drop where everybody is put into a queue and assigned a random number, and if your number is lower than the additions available, then you'll get an NFT that day. The Medium article also says there's no benefit in entering the pre-queue first. Any user who enters the pre-queue during the window will have an equal opportunity to be the first on the site. So even if you enter that queue an hour before the drop or 1 minute before the drop, apparently you have the same amount of chances of getting the drop that day. They also have some updated information about early access for Batcowl holders. They'll have their own pre-queue that they'll be able to enter before the drop. And as long as they own a Batcowl and get picked in that queue, then they'll have a chance to make a purchase that day with early access. So keep in mind the drop mechanics may be different tomorrow. We may see a different style of queue. However, we may be able to enter the queue multiple times like I described later on in this video as my technique that I was going to use anyway. It's possible that using multiple devices or multiple Google accounts will allow you to get into that queue multiple times and have multiple chances of being selected to mint that day. So the rest of this video describes the technique that I planned on using before they updated the drop mechanics. And I'll also show you how to enter the queue multiple times, which may end up being helpful on tomorrow's drop even with the new mechanics. Alright, back to the video. Now we have a Medium article that tells us more about what we need to do on drop day, and we have a couple drops from the past to get a better idea of what techniques to use. So first off, from the Medium article on the DC3 drop guide, how to buy your DC collectible comics, it tells you that the queue automatically starts once a max threshold of users per minute is reached on their website. So what that means is if you get onto that website early, which is what I plan on doing, maybe even an hour before that drop, I'll already be live streaming, so I'm already going to have the page loaded up. And you can start hard refreshing by clicking that refresh button or F5. And you probably won't even get into the queue yet because there's not enough people to reach that threshold. So part of my technique will be getting onto that page early and refreshing until I get into that queue for the first time. Next up, it says once you enter the queue, the current number of users in the queue will be displayed along with an estimated wait time. Also tells you that after your queue wait time is reached and you enter the site, you'll be limited to 20 minutes to complete your purchase. Then once your 20 minutes have elapsed, you'll be placed back into the queue again. This is something you've probably already noticed on the DC drops by now. Once you're on that page for 20 minutes and you refresh again, you go back into the queue. And if you do a soft refresh or don't refresh at all, then you don't get that page to buy when the drop begins. And the Medium article also lets us know that the purchase page drops up several hours before the drops begin, so it'll already be there. There are several ways to navigate to that purchase page. You can go up here and click the purchase button. Or you can also just click the Buy Comics button on the home page, and that'll take you to the screen where you need to be to purchase that drop. Once the timer hits 0 on the purchase page, the Buy Now button appears and you're able to make your purchase. You just have to be through the queue and on that page on that time within the 20 minutes before the drop begins. So let's talk about our strategy and our technique on what we should use for going for these DC Comics drops, in my opinion anyway, from what we've learned so far from past drops. So as was mentioned in the Medium article, the queue won't begin on that website until a max threshold of users is reached. So I'll be on there early trying to refresh every 3 or 4 minutes, maybe even every 5 minutes until I get into the queue. Then after that, my plan is to use other devices and even other Google tabs, which I'll show you here in a second, in order to enter multiple queues every 5 minutes with the same account, so that I can maximize any one of those devices or tabs to be in the page at the right time in order to get the drop that day. After the first DC Comics drop, Superman #1, I watched a YouTube video put out by Der VeVe Meister, where he went for that drop and he was using multiple devices to enter the queue at multiple times. So during the Black Adam drop, I try to do that myself, and it does work indeed. If you use multiple devices, it will automatically put you into the queue again, but it gives you different times of those queues. So now you can get your account into multiple queues every 5 minutes, so that hopefully one of those queues will end at the perfect time for you to be available on the page within that 20 minutes so that you're able to get the drop once it begins. If you don't have multiple devices, or you only have a couple of them and you want to enter more queues than the devices that you have, one trick that you can use is Google Chrome and create a new account on your Google Chrome, and each account can enter the queue by itself. You could also download different browsers like Firefox and enter the queue with those as well. So my plan from the beginning is to get onto that DC Comics website about an hour before the drop and start refreshing every 2 or 3 minutes until I get into the queue. And then once I get into the queue, use other devices and maybe even other Google tabs and accounts in order to get into another separate queue every 5 minutes. If you don't want to use multiple queues, or for some reason you're not able to use multiple queues for this comic drop, I've had several subscribers tell me that the optimal time for you to enter the queue the first time, to get on the page for the first time before the drop, is 25 to 30 minutes before the drop, and they said that they were able to score both comics so far entering the queue at those times. There are 7 different covers to tomorrow's Batman and the Joker comic book in the physical world. We're not sure which 5 they're going to use. Price predictions wise, I think that common and the uncommon are probably going to be below retail, but the prices of the rare, epic, and legendary may depend on which covers they decide to use for those rarities. Alright everybody, thanks for watching, and good luck on tomorrow's Marvel and DC Comics drops. Later.